And Mary Faith, thank you so much for coming. Um, I reached out to both Mary Faith and Aaron because I didn't realize that might be a challenge to get two county commissioners here. Aaron kind of explained that to me. So I really, really appreciate, Mary Faith, that you're here. We want to support you in your work. And for the new people who are not familiar, and I'm just going to say this, although it's a totally nonpartisan position that Mary Faith is in, but she is a Democrat, and I want people to know that we have, we are looking out for our Democrats. Um, so when I get the speakers for the Central Committee meetings, I look for someone who can help us understand the community around us, whether it's state, local, or whatever, and also tell us how we can get involved. And it had been some time since we'd focused on the local community. So I thought I would do that with the County Commission this time. And most of us know Mary Faith from her impressive resume. You know, worked at the editor of the Headlight Herald, worked at the medical field, and just many, let's see, on the board of directors of the Tillamook Bay Community College. But I got to know Mary Faith because she worked with me and my students. I taught school at the alternative school, Wilson River, in Tillamook for many years. And I started bringing my government students to county commission meetings to learn about the county commission. And one day Mary Faith approached me and said, you know, Mary, I would like to talk with your students. I'd like to speak with your students. And I was very impressed that she came to me and she said, tell them about the work that I do and also about what my life was like when I was their age and how we can all become successful. That led to other things. And she opened up her door at the county commission, and along with the other commissioners, they did the same thing. And some of my students were able to job shadow with Mary. And so I started thinking that someone who understood the community from that breadth and depth, everything from being the editor of the local paper to reaching out to work with students who were struggling in school, would have some information that would be something that would draw us in, that we might want to get involved in county government. So I've asked Mary to speak on three things. One is just a general overview of what the county does. We do have a lot of new PCPs here. And what her particular roles are in county commission. And then maybe some ways that not elected positions, but volunteer positions and things that people can sign up for if they want to get involved in county government. So without further ado, I welcome Mary Faith Bell.
Thank you, Mary. Thanks for that nice introduction. Hi to all of you. I'm happy to be here with you tonight. It's interesting about our Zoom culture now, right? You know, I would rather be in a room with you, but it makes me happy to see all of your faces on the screen. So I think we're adjusting well. Commissioner Scar wanted me to say that she's sorry she couldn't be with you tonight. She could have, but her family was coming for spring break. Her children and grandchildren were coming for spring break, and she told me that, and I said, oh, I'll do it. And because there are 3 of us on the commission, 2 of us are quorum, and so if you had both of us, it would have to be a published, you know, a public meeting. Posted public meeting. So I'm happy to do it, and she would be happy to come another time. I can tell you in answer to Mary's 3 questions that what the county commissioners serve as the governing body for the county local service districts, councils, and committees. And so service districts might include the solid waste and the 4-H, for example. And the councils and committees would be in South Tillamook County. We don't have cities, so we have a lot of communities in unincorporated South Tillamook County, and many of them have citizen advisory committees. So we act with the citizen advisory committees. We're responsible for county administration, for management and policy. We don't have, in Tillamook County, we don't have a county administrator, so we split up that responsibility. and we develop policy. Occasionally, we're called to act in a quasi judicial role. For example, if there's a land use issue and it's appealed, then that decision comes to us. So that's interesting when that happens. And it's curious because we're not experts in land use. So, so there's a lot of homework that goes into those decisions. Do you have any questions about that? Basically, that's our role in a nutshell. That's what your county commissioners do. Please.
Hi, we live down in Cloverdale, and as far as I know, there is no citizen advisory committee that serves like Beaver, Hebo, and Cloverdale, this little inland section.
Mhm.
So is that something that the county would consider creating? Not just for each town, because they have 100 people or 300 people,
Right.
but for that little stretch, because, they are similar kind of communities and they have similar kind of issues.
I think that's a great idea. Thank you, Sonia. I think that's a great idea, and I'll bring it up.
Right.
Other questions? Kathy? Hi.
Well, I was wondering if that would include the people who live on Sand Lake Road, because we're closer to Pacific City than we are to Beaver or Cloverdale or Hebo, but we don't have a say in everything that affects us that happens at the Cape and in Pacific City. We don't have a say anywhere, really.
It was my understanding, and maybe I'm mistaken, that folks who live in your neighborhood could be in the Tierra del Mar group. Do you know?
They politely told me that I needed to be living in the Tierra del Mar and pay the dues. Even though I offered to pay dues, they said that I couldn't really be in a member of their association, but they kind of let me know what's going on, but I'm not really a voting member.
I'm sorry, Kathy. I did misunderstand that. Okay, so if it seems like the folks who live on Sand Lake Road there probably aren't enough of you to form your own committee, community action committee, citizens advisory committee. So do you think you would prefer not to be part of the Pacific City group, or how do you think it would work best?
I don't really know. I just would like to be a part of something.
Yeah.
That is able to have a say in what goes on in South County.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate you speaking up, and I'll check on both of those things.
Great.
Mary,
Thank you.
You're welcome. I can't hear you, Mary. Mary, you're muted.
Somebody muted me. That's okay. We do have a lot of new PCPs, and some of them are even new to Oregon and Tillamook County. So just real quickly, could you tell us what an advisory committee does?
Sure. An advisory committee, basically the idea is that for those communities that aren't cities, that aren't incorporated cities, we need to hear from the communities about issues, what's going on, what's important. And so, for example, the Nesquin Advisory Committee, the last time I was there, they were talking about the tsunami egress routes and tsunami evacuation signage and the community sewer and stuff like that. So in every community, there are certainly significant issues going on, but if there isn't city government, for example, we need to talk to members of the community who can let us know what's going on and let us know what they need from the county.
Thank you.
Other questions? Okay, so Mary asked me to talk about our liaison responsibilities. So as I said before, there are 3 of us and we don't have a county administrator. So we split up the liaison responsibilities for all of the county departments and other organizations that are important to the functions of the county. And so how those break down, I'm looking at my other screen here because there are so many, I don't always remember them all. But in terms of county departments, I have HR. And so that's significant, certainly. And some of the challenges in HR have been turnover. So we've had turnover of 2 directors in 2 years, and that's been difficult. And also that the system is really antiquated. So I'm, like 1950s, like we don't have electronic records yet. We have, everything is still done in paper. It's really old school. And so we're transitioning, we're getting ready to transition to an electronic record system. And that's, but we don't have a director right now. So we're working with a consulting firm, and they're providing an interim director who's doing a terrific job. And we're recruiting for a director. We're in our 2nd recruitment, but something that's really challenging that came up again today is that we've lost a lot of candidates because our pay scale is, it's conservative, and it's relatively low. And besides that, the cost of housing is so high here. So we've lost a number of highly qualified candidates who couldn't afford to come here to work for what we have to offer. And also people who thought that they could have made the wage work, but what doesn't work is if you factor in the cost of housing, it's so high that compared to some other places that people just can't afford to make the change. So we're really struggling with that. And but anyway, that's what's going on in HR. I find that a lot of the job is change management. I've been talking for a couple of years about updating our evaluation system. We have an also antiquated evaluation system where we just review with people their performance once a year, and there's a couple of pieces of paper, and we ask people to list their goals, and it's pretty old school. So there isn't, the best practices for HR currently are that all of that would happen electronically, that people would meet at least quarterly, that they would have measurable goals, and the supervisor would work with them, meet with them regularly to find out if they have everything they need and how are they doing on their goals. And so we don't really have any of that, and we'll get there. But what I'm finding is that the change management part of it is really, it's daunting, because there's a lot of, this is how we've always done it, and this is all we have, and this is what we have to work with, and so change is hard, and change is hard for people in general, I think. But also it's hard because we have a union workforce. So every little thing you might want to change, like the job description for the master recyclers volunteer coordinator, all of that stuff has to go through the union. So it's just pretty complicated. So that's one thing I have, which is I have HR. I have the library, and Ruth is on this call today. I'm glad to see you, Ruth. I love the library. I asked for the library. In fact, I fought for the library, and I'm delighted to be involved in the library. And also there's been a transition in leadership there, which many of you probably know. So Sarah Charlton retired, and with 29 plus, almost 30 years of service as a library director. She was amazing. And so we went through this very long process trying to find a new director, which happened right around the time of COVID. And so that made it so complicated, but, and drawn out. But Sarah stayed until we got somebody. Jerry Godber started February 9th, I think. So she's just over a month into it, and she seems to be doing a great job. And we're all very encouraged about that. So I have Public Works, and that's super interesting. When I took the position, or I was sworn in, I took Tim Josie's position, his seat, and so some of his liaison responsibilities I just inherited. So some of them I didn't know anything about, including Public Works. I didn't know anything about the road department. I didn't know anything about solid waste, but I'm a lifelong learner, so I get really excited about learning new things. So I said, sure, Public Works, yeah. And so it's been fascinating. It's really, roads are extremely important, and the functions of solid waste are extremely important and interesting. And it's just been a pleasure to learn about those things. Some of the exciting things that are going on with Public Works are, there are some projects, some long-standing projects that generations of commissioners have been working on that are finally coming to fruition now. So, for example, in South County, the Neskowin emergency egress route is actually going to happen, and that was a passion project for Mark Labhart. So they have been working on this for many years. And it's actually going to happen now. We have a construction schedule, and so that's thrilling. And that is if you can picture Neskowin, the only way in and out of the village is the little bridge that crosses the water there by the Huck Street Cafe. And so when the bridge is unpassable because of weather, etc., flooding, sometimes it gets all backed up with flood debris. And certainly if we were to have a seismic event, then there's no way for people to get out of the village. And so we needed to provide an emergency egress route. And it's just extremely complicated because it's very low lying land. And so there are fish passage issues and floodplain issues and so many different agencies that had to be involved to make this happen, and it's very expensive, and so of course funding for it was a big issue. But Senator Betsy Johnson fought for funding for this project. The community themselves came up with $100,000, which is extraordinary. And someone, Jeff Walton, who lives there, donated the land. And it's been years and years and years of work, and it's really going to happen now. So I'm very excited about that. And likewise, I'm really excited that the Three Capes Scenic Route is also going to happen. We're so close. And that is the route that provides that would go from Cape Mears across to Oceanside and Netarts. Right now, you can go either way. You can go to Cape Mears and come back, or you can go to Oceanside and come back, but you can't go across. And the reason is because of an active landslide. And so that area has been sliding for a long time. This has been maybe, 10 or 15 years. That area has been sliding for a long time, and the road was rebuilt at one point, and then it slid again. And so then it was re-engineered, and that part slid. And so in the meantime, over the course of these years, the price tag, of course, has gone up and up and up. And so maybe it started at 11 and now it's at 21 million. And so finally, we're so close on that project. Now we have the funding, we have the engineering, we have the permitting, we have everything except for we're in the very final stages of land negotiation. So we were in a meeting about that this week. It's interesting because the new route goes across private property. Some of it belongs to Stimson and some of it belongs to Green Crow. And so we have to negotiate with them how to pass their land. And so Stimson doesn't want to just sell the land because they're in the business of logging, and so they want to trade. And so we have to find other places to offer them in trade to make this deal work. But that's where we're at with it, and I'm really excited because it's really going to happen. And what that provides is a tremendous measure of safety for people in a fire or emergency, or God forbid, tsunami or whatever, that they have another way to get out, because right now they don't. So so those are some of the things that I'm working on. I'm also, now I'm looking at my list. I also have the I have the I'm liaison to Visit Tillamook Coast, which is now the Tillamook Coast Visitors Association. So that's very interesting because, as you probably recall, if you lived here, in 2014, we voted in transient lodging tax, and Tillamook County voters voted this in. And so, so there's revenue generated from transient lodging tax, and by Oregon statute, 30% of it can be spent on whatever we want. But 70% has to be spent on tourism facilities or promotion or marketing. And so we contract with Tillamook Coast Visitors Association to spend part of that 70% and reinvest it back into the community. So that work has been really exciting in the last couple of years, because we've done a dramatic transition from marketing for more tourists when it became clear that we had more tourists than we could handle. And so now we've shifted from tourism promotion and marketing to what's called tourism management. And so that means we don't want to invite any more people here. We want to manage the people who are coming here. And so we're working on that, and it's really good work. We did last year, we concluded a strategic planning process with the community about that, where we asked the community to tell us, how do you want us to invest this 70%? Because that money is growing, it's getting bigger and bigger. The 30% is dedicated entirely to roads, which it should be, because the road department needs it. So, but of the 70%, we have to figure out how to responsibly manage that. And so that work has been really good. We're looking at trails. When we did this community visioning project, when we were asking, what does the community want us to invest in, by far the highest response was for trails, was for outdoor recreation. And so we're investing in the Salmonberry Trail, which is super exciting and may actually happen. When I first started hearing about the Salmonberry Trail, which would go from Tillamook all the way up the Nehalem and through the Salmonberry corridor and come out in Washington County and Banks, which I think is thrilling. Initially people were like, oh, that won't happen in your lifetime. It'll be $50 million. It'll take 100 years. You won't live to see it happen. But that is not true. So we've made tremendous progress on that. And I think that we will see in the next 10 years, we'll see chunks of the Salmonberry Trail, at least in Tillamook County, we'll see them happen. And so I think that's thrilling. And we're working on the Oregon Coast Trail. We're working on trails to connect the different communities. And so this year we're asking the Tillamook Coast Visitors Association to do some inventory of what we have, our assets, our outdoor recreation assets. So they've developed this GIS map that's really cool, brand new. And on it is every single recreation asset in Tillamook County, which is great. It hasn't existed before. And so then the idea is that will be developed into, something like an app that you can look up on your phone and figure out. And so that's really great. And now we've asked them to do asset mapping in terms of we need to invest in bathrooms, trailheads, parking lots, in the things that we don't have enough of when visitors come here. You know, all these people are coming here and we haven't been ready. And every year we think we're going to be ready, but we're not. But more people come and then we're not ready. So we need to know, where do we need to build bathrooms? Where do we need to build trailheads, parking lots, etc. And public restrooms. Logan's messaging, public restrooms are big. Yeah, absolutely, totally true. And how to prioritize them. And so the Tillamook Coast Visitors Association will help us with that. So I'm liaison to them, and that's really exciting work. And it's exciting to see small businesses grow. They did this thing called the food trail where they're mapping all kinds of food producers throughout the county, and now it's regional. It's moving up into Clatsop County, and those small farms and businesses report that their business is growing because they're on the food trail. So there's a lot of good work being done there. And something, I know I'm talking a lot, so before I run out of time, I want to tell you the thing I'm most excited about right now is that I'm working on DEI issues, diversity, equity, inclusion, and the county doesn't have anything for that. We don't have a program, and we have the interest in a program, but we don't have anything in place. But I'm on the college board, and this college is doing great work in that area. So I'm on their DEI committee, and I'm on a committee right now that's learning to develop an equity lens. So then we should be able to take that information and bring it back to the county and say, you know, where can we apply an equity lens? Like, for instance, I'm the liaison to the Year of Wellness. It started as a Year of Wellness, but now it's Tillamook County Wellness. So I'm the county liaison to that group. And that group is doing all kinds of amazing things. Their goal is to reduce diabetes in Tillamook County, measurably reduce the incidence of type 2 diabetes in Tillamook County by 2027. So it's a lofty goal, and should be achievable. And so they have all these committees that exist. Some of you are probably on them, and like an access to physical activities committee, where they're doing all kinds of things, including working on mountain biking trails, and there's access to healthy foods committee, etc. So there are all these different committees, and I'm thinking we really need an equity lens for that work. We need an equity lens for that organization, because when I think about it, I think, you know, we can provide people with the information, like lifestyle medicine. We can provide people with the education about, if you change your diet and change your habit in these ways, you can invest in your life, you can invest in your wellness, invest in your longevity, etc. But that's not going to be enough for somebody who lives in extreme poverty, for example, or someone who has mental or emotional illness, or somebody who's suffering from addictions, etc. And so there's this whole group of people that we're probably not going to reach with the lifestyle medicine, you know, change your behavior, change your health message. So I think we have to apply equity lenses to be able to look at the work we're doing in those committees and think about, like, how is this message going to reach the people who need it the most? And so that's very exciting. And we're doing the same thing at the library, which I'm thrilled about. So the library has a DEI committee now. And jumping ahead, I'll tell you that a couple of the things that people could get involved in right now are at the library. And the library has a diversity, equity, and inclusion committee. And we're just starting. We're just figuring out what we want to do with that, including book clubs and having books in different languages. And the board, the library board, has just started a book club to talk about this issue. So our first book, we're on our first book right now, which is My Grandmother's Hands. So the library board, which I'm on, is going to read a couple of chapters of My Grandmother's Hands, and then we're going to talk about it after the board meeting, which I think is a great way to start. And so that's something people could probably get involved in if they were interested. So the library board is doing this great work. TVCC is doing this great work. I got a call the other day from Ken Henson, who's I don't know if he's a co-owner, he may be a principal partner in Pelican, and he's passionate about DEI work. So we had this great conversation about what's happening in the community, what's happening with different businesses, with his business, with the creamery, et cetera, and what he'd like to see happen. So I was thinking about how there are a lot of Spanish speaking people in Tillamook County, and in the 2010 census, 11% of people identified as Spanish speaking, but I worked at the paper then and I was thinking that can't be right. So I thought it was more. So I contacted the school districts and I asked them, the incoming students in your class, what percentage of them are Spanish speaking? And they said, oh, closer to 30. So then I asked some other organizations in the county, what do you think? And a lot of people said maybe 30%. So we know that not all Spanish speaking people will participate in the census, and probably less in the 2020 census than previously because there was more fear. So in any case, we have a lot of Spanish speaking people here. So I wanted to figure out how to communicate with the Spanish speaking community and find out what their issues really are, because they're our largest minority. So I contacted there's a new coordinator for the Juntos program, Juntos is the Spanish word for together. And Juntos is a program of Oregon State University in partnership with TVCC, and the Juntos coordinator works with Spanish speaking kids in the high school and with their parents. And so I contacted them and said, can I come talk to the kids, or will the kids talk to me? And would this be a way that we could find out, like, could we develop a student advisory group to the commissioners? This is my big dream, like that they would advise us. And so I got to go talk to them last month, and it was so great. It was one of those moments where I thought, I love this job. So I went to their meeting in person now. I went to their class, and we're all masked up, of course, and keeping our distance. And I started talking to them and asking them what life is like for them and their families in Tillamook County, and where they struggle or what the barriers are. And at first they were very shy and not forthcoming, and they said things like, oh, we don't really have any problems. And so I told some stories and I asked some questions, and I just sat there with them for a while until finally it just all came flooding out, and they told me about all kinds of things that we can help work on. They said that there aren't enough that they serve as translators for their parents and their grandparents, and that their parents and grandparents don't understand technology, and there aren't classes, like how to use a smartphone, or how to do email in Spanish. And so that's just one example. We talked a lot about housing, and that their parents and their grandparents want to be able to buy a house, but they're afraid. They're afraid to do anything if they're undocumented. They're afraid to ask for anything if they're undocumented. They don't know how to get a mortgage. They don't know how to build credit. They don't know how to apply for subsidized housing, or if they qualify based on being documented or undocumented. Same thing with buying a car. They don't know how to buy a car on contract. They don't know if they're qualified. They don't know if they can. Same thing with starting businesses or getting permits or licenses, et cetera. And so all of this stuff came flooding out of this meeting that was so valuable. And so it was just, it was thrilling to me to really hear it, because nobody was talking to us. So now we started working on those things, and as a commissioner, there are so many areas that I'm involved in. So for example, I'm involved in I'm on the board of the Northwest Oregon Housing Authority, which provides subsidized housing. So now I'm working with them on that issue, and it's exciting. You know, it's just at the beginning. I wish we were further along, but we're not yet. But we'll get there, you know, because we've started. So so those are, you know, all together, it's a fabulous job. It's different every day. It's super challenging. It's very rewarding. It's been a hard job in the last year because there were so many crises. We had, well, first we had a chemical exposure in the courthouse, had to close the courthouse, send everybody home for a while, and clean out the building. And then we had a cyber attack, and that was very serious. And it was a ransomware attack, and all of our computer systems were down for weeks. We were months recovering from that, and then COVID hit, and it's been a tough year for everybody. And there's just so much. I'm sure you're all aware of this, because I just think we all are, that there's elevated angst, and people are anxious and fearful and angry in general. There's just so much free floating hostility. So there's been a lot of that, but I feel like I feel hopeful. I feel like you know, people are getting vaccinated now, and it's springtime, and we have a new administration in the White House, and so I feel like we're starting to shift out of that energy. I hope that's true. So I'll shift now to Mary's last question about how people can get involved. We have really, I personally have really missed having people in our meetings, but a person could still come to our meetings in person, but very few people do because of COVID. So one of the good things that's happened as a result of that is that we have our meetings are available live streamed now through Jane Scott, and so that's tctvonline.com, and we have all of our meetings are available remotely, so people can attend by phone, they can attend by Microsoft Teams, and so actually it's a good thing that's come out of COVID, because we have a lot more access. There's much more access. Some days there are 30, 40 people watching our meetings online, you know, when previously there might have been 5 or 6 in the room. So there's a lot more access now electronically, which is a good thing, but we miss having people in the room. Some of the committees and things that there are lots of committees people can be involved in, but the committees that are appointed have they have a certain number of positions. And so, for example, we just filled 2 positions in the library board, and now that board is full. And we have the Citizens Road Advisory Committee, and I believe they're full right now, but if a person was interested in that, they could call Public Works and say, I'd like to be on the they call it the CRAC, the Citizens Road Advisory Committee. And that's a really strong group. It's a really interesting group. They meet not always monthly, sometimes every other month. They haven't met much through COVID, but they advise the commissioners on road issues in the county, including if somebody has a road problem or a project that wouldn't normally be done through the county, they can come to the CRAC and say, I have this special request, and then the committee reviews the request and will make a recommendation to the county. So it's a really good committee, and they review the road budget and the strategic plan, and so that's a cool committee. There are the Citizens Advisory Committees I was talking about before, and I'm going to check about South County, Sand Lake Road, and Beaver, Cloverdale, and Hebo. There are at the library, Ruth may have talked to you about this already, but the library operates on a 5-year operating levy. And so that is coming around again. And there will be opportunities for people to be on the PAC for the library bond. I think I'm just going to pause there and take questions. Sorry, I need my trifocals now. So I
Mary Faith, I see Mary's hand.
thank you.
Yeah, I was just going to say, this is so much more information than I had even hoped for, because I knew you were involved in so many great things, but I appreciate how you described your involvement, and thank you for that. And thank you for having a wide lens with how you're involved. And so there probably is just as many ways that our group here could get involved in the county too. Is there a simple way to direct them to like the county commission website where they can see an application or something for these groups? Or what's a simple way that generically would cover all the groups?
Well, you're absolutely welcome to go to the county website and the Board of County Commissioners. We have a page, and some of that information will be on there. You're also welcome to email me and let me know if there's something in particular that you're interested in.
Okay, thank you.
Kathy?
I see Kathy Blevins next, and then David Smith.
Great.
Thank you. I was wondering about on COVID, do the commissioners have an active role in trying to get Tillamook County vaccinated?
We do. The county health department is in charge of that effort, of course, and Gordon McCraw plays a role on the incident command team as the emergency manager, and so we just communicate with them several times a week. We get updates about how much vaccine we're getting in, how much vaccine has been given, who the partners are, how it's going, if there are problems with the system or what's happening and how they're communicating. So do you have any specific questions about that?
Well, I follow the data for Tillamook County on the vaccinations, and one of the points that to me seems really important, it would be percentage of adults vaccinated, because they talk about that with herd immunity. They're talking about it'd be around 70% to be effective in protection, and that isn't offered on the data that I'm looking at. Is just sheer numbers of vaccines given, and of course we know the population of the county, but that includes I think people, children too, that number. So it would be helpful to have a percentage of adults vaccinated to use as a barometer. And also, I've heard from some nurses that Tillamook County is pretty high percentage of people that just aren't going to get vaccinated. And wondering if you have any information on that.
So there's a couple things there. One, I'll ask about percentage of adults who've been vaccinated, and that's an excellent question. I've wondered it myself. We do hear from the health department the percentage of Tillamook County residents who've been vaccinated, and as of Wednesday, maybe. No, maybe it was last Friday. Very recently, it was over 20%, maybe 25% of residents had been vaccinated for the first dose, and half that many had received the second. So it might have been 11% had received
Yeah.
both doses already, and maybe 25% the first dose. And so I thought that number was encouraging, but I also wondered what is our goal, like because they're not giving it to children, so what's our goal, and how are we doing in terms of our goal? So I think it's a great question. I haven't attended any meetings yet where we're talking about folks who decide not to get the vaccine. I have been in meetings where we're talking about how to encourage people, and so there are people doing videos and testimonials about, I got the vaccine, this was my experience, this is why. And some of those are in Spanish, which I think is great. And so because we know that, for example, the Spanish speaking population is less likely to get the vaccine because they have less information about it. So they'd have more trepidation. And so we're doing very deliberate, strong outreach to the Spanish speaking community to invite them to come get the vaccine. I got mine yesterday. It was an extra dose that they had at the clinic, and at the end of the day, and I was delighted to see while it was there, somebody who didn't speak English come in to get his vaccine, and he was a younger guy, and he came in to get his vaccine, and I was thrilled about that. And so I think that word is getting out somehow. Also, I've read articles about this, but we haven't talked about it in our meetings, that there's a group of folks that it looks like nationally, we'll just say nationally, it looks like there's a group of folks who were strong supporters of the former president who are resistant to getting the vaccine. And so that's an interesting quandary, how we will convince that group that it's worthwhile to do that. What I hope will happen is if any part of it is fear-based, I hope that as enough people in the community get it, and we share our experience with, maybe I've had some flu symptoms for a few days or whatever. That's the worst I've personally heard so far, is that when people get the second dose, they might feel a little bit sick for a day or two. But I hope that as we share stories about that, and there's actual information from local people about their experience with the vaccine, that will allay people's fears. But in terms of the sort of programming that went on about, I've heard some pretty wacky stuff. Actually, I heard the other day that there are some people who aren't going to get it because they're convinced that it changes your DNA. And, there's all kinds of stuff like that out there. And I'm not sure how we're going to address that. I know that's not a complete answer to your question, but it's certainly a concern.
So Mary Faith, we have a couple more questions, and I think then we have to kind of cut it off. Your information has been so complete and in full that we've gone a little bit over our time budget here.
Okay.
But I know Dave Smith has was waiting patiently to ask a question, and then I see Logan's hand. Dave?
Hi, Dave. You're on mute, Dave. Dave, you're on mute.
Unmute. Can you
There
hear
you
me?
go. Yep.
All right. You have quite a portfolio. I have been trying to get a hold of the county road department to answer a couple of questions, and I've tried many times, and the phone will ring a couple of times, and then basically I get a buzz. I get cut off. I have not been able to get a hold of them. So I know they do an awful lot of work out on the roads. But somehow I would like to get a question answered, and I haven't been able to.
Okay. Well, I'll mention to them that they may be having phone problems. And would you like to, if you email me, I'll forward it to them. Do you want to do that?
That'd be great.
Okay.
That'd be great.
I'd be happy to tell you
Super.
my email, or you could find it on the, I could put it in the
Yeah,
chat. I'll put it in the chat.
I can look it up. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you much.
You're welcome.
All
And Logan.
right, and Logan.
Hey, so one of the things I'm kind of seeing, especially in the last couple of years, is we, as our county departments and service districts, in the hiring process for public service positions, like high-level director level positions, they'll come to a final couple candidates, and then they'll have a public Q&A, a public get to know both of the candidates. I was wondering if you've seen, if you've heard or seen anything about that practice, and might be able to speak on the intention behind it. It's just something new I haven't seen before.
Well, I think we did that with the library director, and that's the only director position I can think of that we've done that for in the last couple of years. But the idea specific to the library director is that it's a public facing position, and a lot of what was really important to us in hiring a director is somebody who would be able to build relationships with the community, with library users, with the friends group, with the board. You know, we have library, the word just flew out of my head, but buildings in several different locations. So we have all these little satellite libraries, and we have the bookmobile, you know, so there are a lot of the library work is interfacing with the public. And so we really wanted people to have the opportunity to meet those candidates, and then in that process, then people were able to respond electronically to the person who was helping us with the recruitment, and review the candidates. And then the selection committee reviewed their feedback, and it was really useful. It was great, I thought.
Okay, cool. So it's a selection tool more than it is about bridging new networks in the community.
Yes, it is a selection tool specific to recruitment, and it generated interest. So
Okay.
Community members got interested in the candidates they were excited about, and so I think it at least provided that intro, you know, to get people intrigued and want to meet them and get to know them.
Cool, thank you.
Sure, you're welcome. Nice to see you. Logan helped me with my campaign. He's awesome.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. Well, thank you so much, Mary Faith. I can tell that we're going to have to work at getting you back, because I think you could probably fill another session, and
I
we
have a
will
lot more
definitely.
liaison responsibilities. It's true.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, and for all the
My
work
pleasure.
that you are doing and have done for our county. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. I was glad to be here.